Princess Virelia of the Cirithian Empire once soared through the silver domes of Erelthane City with wings like woven sapphire. She had been the jewel of the royal bloodline, admired not only for her radiant beauty but her fierce mind, sharp diplomacy, and sky-dancer's grace. Until the accident. A diplomatic convoy, sabotaged by a rival empire's drone mine, had burst mid-flight. Virelia had pushed her younger siblings to safety with a last desperate beat of her wings, only to be caught in the explosion. Her survival was deemed a miracle. But her wings, shredded and useless, were beyond regeneration. In Cirithian culture, where flight was sacred and bodily perfection revered, Virelia was now damaged. No longer did the nobles flock to court her favor. Suitors who once composed symphonies for her now diverted their attentions to her cousins. The whispers began. What use is a grounded princess? She can't even participate in the ceremonial soar. A queen who cannot fly is no queen. Her own father, Emperor Sithran, hadn't spoken to her directly in over a year. Officially, she still held her title, but her chamber had been moved to the high cliffs, out of the way, a beautiful gilded cage with no visitors. Until the human arrived. Earth's inclusion in the intergalactic concord had ruffled more than a few feathers across the core worlds. Humans were unpredictable, brash, unrefined. But above all, they were physically unimpressive. No claws, no natural weaponry, no flight. Just 2 legs and an unremarkable sense of balance. Cirithians had no interest in allying with a ground-bound species, until humanity proved they were as unrelenting as gravity itself. Jonah Kale was not a diplomat. He was an exosuit engineer, part of a growing delegation of human technologists integrating with alien research institutes. Virelia first saw him from her balcony, muttering to himself as he guided a floating platform of mechanical limbs toward the university across the ravine. She'd assumed he was like the others, too polite to look at her directly, too afraid to engage with the fallen princess. But Jonah wasn't noble-born. He didn't care about Cirithian etiquette. A week later he waved up at her. "Hey, I like your garden," he called, grinning. Virelia blinked, her wings twitching instinctively, until she remembered. They did not lift her anymore. She turned away, humiliated. The next day he waved again. And again the day after. Eventually, curiosity got the better of her. "You are either foolish or insistent," she told him over the rail one morning. Jonah's smile widened. "Both, usually." She almost laughed. Almost. He didn't try to flatter her or offer courtly sympathy. Instead, he asked if the floating lilies she grew had been genetically spliced. She replied with pride that she'd engineered them herself during her isolation. That led to conversations about biochemical fields, drone pollination, and the way wind affects Cirithian scent coding. He came every day after that. Jonah brought stories of Earth, of skydiving, of running through wind tunnels, of humans who couldn't fly but learned to mimic it anyway. He described children building wings out of bedsheets and jumping off staircases, not out of foolishness but hope. "You ever thought about flying again?" he asked once, delicately. Her voice became ice. "You cannot understand what was taken from me." Jonah didn't apologize. He just nodded solemnly. "You're right. But maybe I can help you take it back." It was madness, of course. A grounded human offering flight to a once-winged alien royal. But Jonah was stubborn. Over the next 2 months, he returned with sketches, prototypes, models. He brought a small gravity assist frame made of titanium nanofiber, designed to interface with the remnants of her wing stumps. "It won't be perfect," he said, "but it'll be yours." She resisted at first. Her people would never accept it. A princess flying with artificial wings. It would be heresy. But Jonah's sincerity wore down her pride. "Why do you care?" she asked him one twilight, their silhouettes stretched long against the cliffside. "I'm nothing to your people. Nothing to my own." Jonah looked at her then, not with pity, not with admiration, but with recognition. "Because I know what it's like to be overlooked. And because you're not nothing. You're Virelia. You're more than the wings they took from you." Her breath caught. Then he added, quieter, "And I think I'm falling for you." Silence fell between them, thick and trembling. Her heart raced with conflicting signals. Fear, guilt, longing. But she didn't send him away. The first test flight was clumsy. Her muscles had atrophied. The interface took training. But Jonah never let her fall. Each time she dipped, he was there. Each time she cursed, he cheered her onward. "Again," she'd say, gritting her teeth. "Hell yeah," Jonah would reply, wiping sweat from his brow. When she finally hovered 10 feet off the ground without trembling, Jonah shouted so loud the guards thought he'd gone mad. And when she landed gracefully, her eyes burning with tears, he whispered, "Be mine." This time she did laugh. And then she kissed him. Rumors spread fast across the imperial court. The disabled princess had found a way to fly again, with the help of a human. Scandalous. Unnatural. Some called it blasphemy. The emperor summoned her. She stood before the court in her reconstructed wings. Sleek, elegant, humming with soft light. Jonah stood beside her, wearing his best, slightly wrinkled, diplomatic uniform. Emperor Sithron descended his obsidian throne, towering over his daughter. "You mock our traditions," he said coldly. "With machines and outsiders. What is this display?" Virelia's voice was steady. "This is not a display. This is who I choose to be. I may no longer have natural wings, but I have found my own way to fly, and someone who helped me remember my worth." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The emperor's face remained unreadable. "You would crown yourself with scraps and sentiment?" he asked. "No," she said, stepping forward. "I would live, father. Not just exist to fulfill broken expectations." Jonah Cale gave me back my future. "And I love him," gasps echoed. Jonah swallowed hard but didn't flinch. Sithron turned his gaze on Jonah. "And you, human, you'd take a Cirithian princess as mate?" "I would," Jonah said firmly. "Not because of her title, but because I see her, the real her. She's the bravest soul I've ever met." Long pause. Then the emperor turned and walked away. The court dissolved into chaos. Arguments, outrage, curiosity. But the public told a different story. Footage of Virelia's flight circulated across the starnet. Children pointed at their screens with wonder. Disabled citizens across the galaxy hailed her as a symbol of hope. Petitioners began asking for access to her wing interface designs. When the emperor finally released an official statement weeks later, it was cautious but favorable. The royal family supports innovation, resilience, and unity. In this new age, may all species find strength not only in tradition, but in love. It wasn't an apology, but it was enough. On the day of their union, Virelia soared across the skies of Erelthane, not on ancient wings, but on those forged by love, ingenuity, and stubborn human engineering. The cheers of the crowd shook the cliffside. Jonah met her at the landing platform, breathless with awe. "You're really something, you know that," he whispered.